Hey, folks, welcome back. Those of you who are already here, those of you who are just joining us, welcome. It's Towers Take, brought to you by Marco's Pizza. Towers Take live on Facebook. We do this every Thursday at lunchtime. Having a little audio trouble there again, so hopefully it's a little bit better. Let me hear from you, and let me know if you can hear me okay. If it's something below perfect, that's okay, as long as you can understand what I'm saying. And as long as I can read your comments, we will have ourselves an exchange. And that is the point here. How Love is back, and How Love was first again. That's incredible, How. That's incredible that you can do that. And let's see. Yeah, getting some thumbs up now. I'm glad everybody can hear me. Sorry about that. Again, Towers Take Live, brought to you by Marco's Pizza, America's #1 pizza company, a fantastic pizza company. As you all know, you can always get their double day deal, 2 medium, 2 topping pizzas for just $6.99. Call there now, and you will get your pizza before this show is over. Good. Glad everybody is here. It is Vanderbilt week, Georgia Vanderbilt week, and there's always great anticipation over that. Nah, I'm just kidding. But, I mean, you know, it should be. It's an SEC game. It's game number 2 in a 7-game SEC in a row streak here for Georgia. They've already played 3. Let's see. They had South Carolina. Then, I'm sorry, this is the 3rd of 7 in a row, 8 in total, of course. Tennessee last week. I guess I haven't talked to y'all, but I've seen you on Chip and Griff's show and other platforms since then. And then, of course, Vanderbilt coming up this week. The Commodores, typical of a Vanderbilt team, you know, dangerous but not great. They're 3-2. They're 0-1 in the league. Got beat pretty good by South Carolina last week, but put a real big scare into Notre Dame a couple weeks ago up there. Lost by less than a touchdown, had a chance to win the game. And certainly Vanderbilt is dangerous. You don't have to tell Kirby Smart that. The Commodores knocked off Georgia just 2 years ago in his first season in Athens. That's always a terrible thing. Often results in terrible seasons. Georgia went 8-5 that year. They lost 17-16 that day, and that was a tough deal. The first question that came up in the last session was questions about Hazelwood. Of course, that's Jeff Sintel's area of expertise. Mike Massey here saying that Hazelwood will be back. We just have to open up the offense and show him. You know, I don't know about all that. I know he's a big-time player. I actually met Jaden down in Atlanta with Sintel early last summer, I guess it was, when he had first made his, actually they were taping his commitment video that day, and I went to actually watch that. And he's a great player, a 5-star wide receiver. Georgia can always use more of those. But Georgia has plenty of good receivers as it is, I do think, and I know they want Jaden Hazelwood badly, and time will tell whether they get him. There is an early signing period, and we will see. So let's talk about Georgia Vandy this week. Like I said, always a dangerous matchup. Anytime you're going into SEC play, I imagine this one will be a little bit more along the lines of what we saw with Missouri, in that this is a team with a quarterback in Kyle Shermer and a receiver in Collegia Lipscomb, who leads the SEC in catches, yardage, and touchdowns. Kyle Shermer, a high-efficiency passing quarterback, will throw the ball around a lot. So I think they're like Missouri in that regard, less like Tennessee that wants to run the football at you. And then Georgia has their own quarterback issues. As they're showing you back in the studio, certainly Jake Fromm and Justin Fields, that saga will continue. I don't know if you should call it a saga. I really, the thing, at the end of the day, and I don't know if this has been expressed enough by me anyway, but by anybody, it's a good situation. I think Georgia's got a great situation. I think Justin Fields is clearly progressing and maturing, and he's a big, impressive athlete and getting to be a more and more impressive quarterback. And then meanwhile, I don't know that we give enough credit for what a high level Jake Fromm is playing. Certainly he's not as mobile, and as one of our good friends here in the comment section said just a few minutes ago, he's also not getting much protection, and not being a highly mobile quarterback, that puts him at a disadvantage sometimes, which I think is why you're seeing Justin Fields right now. Certainly he is a much more mobile quarterback, and so they have to go with that. Excuse me while I'm having to multitask here. I've got a little technical issue, but let me make sure I got your comments coming up here now. Yeah, they are. That's the reason we're seeing more Justin Fields. But look, this is a competition that's not going to go away. Justin Fields, I would imagine, is going to continue to improve, as is Jake Fromm. And at the end of the day, Georgia has a really good situation in that it has two good quarterbacks at its disposal, ready to go at any moment. Kirby, obviously, not going to make any comments about how those guys are going to be deployed in the Vanderbilt game or any other game. His cute little phrase is, the plan is there is no plan. That's not true. But I do buy that, the games will dictate when and how much Justin Fields gets in. I mean, otherwise, if Georgia's getting optimum protection right now and optimum run game, I think you would stick with Jake Fromm as long as you could, because of the high efficiency rate at which he's competing. And don't let that get lost on you. He's competing at an extremely high rate. Go back and listen to Gary Danielson's comments at this from the Tennessee game this past week. He just raves about Jake Fromm's ability to read defenses and anticipate what they're going to do. And I was talking to Mike Griffith about that this morning. Think about in the Tennessee game. So you had a perfectly timed hot read go right through Terry Godwin's hands that may have gone to the house. It was at the very least going to be a first down game, and probably a big gainer, if not all the way. Same thing with DeAndre Swift on that little screen pass they ran on a 3rd and long. It was wide open in front of them. Both of those cases, the ball was not caught, and it should have been. You can go back and forth about whether Jeremiah Holloman had an opportunity to make a catch on his ball. Riley Ridley, looking back at it, his play, a second and third time, maybe he wouldn't have had a chance to catch that if he accelerates through his route. But certainly that was a play that Jake Fromm would like to have baggers wide open. So, and as it was, I think Jake went 16 of 22 or something like that, and he's got an incredible completion rate, as it is one of the most efficient players in the SEC, quarterbacks in the SEC and in the country, as he was last year. Currently, he's still at 72.5% on completion percentage. And then you throw in Justin Fields, who's 78.9. So that's pretty good. As a combination, that's a pretty good quarterback situation. And as we saw in the Tennessee game, certainly Kirby and Jim Chaney aren't afraid to go back and forth, every single snap with these two guys. So I think that's a good thing. J. Cody Ratliff saying is, I think he should have been. He thinks that Holloman should have caught the ball. Bryce Dixon disagrees. Yes, some good chatter here. I'm glad you guys are talking. A lot of you guys on here, I appreciate you being patient with us and hanging out with us here today. What else is going on? Tomorrow is Stegmania at Stegman Coliseum. Those of you who can make it to Athens, I would highly suggest you go if you have any interest in basketball. That's going to be kind of the debut of Tom Crean and his program kind of out in public. A lot of fun things are planned there. They got I believe the doors open at 6:30, 7:30. Both the men's and women's teams will get into some sort of action. Teams will be introduced. And knowing what I know about Tom Crean, there'll be a lot of fun had. Same thing with Jody Crenshaw. They'll certainly have a lot of cool plans for everybody. I'm having to read your comments on my iPhone today because of some iPad issues. So we got to have 100% effort to beat LSU. Matt Ertley said, "Yeah, you're looking ahead there a little bit, aren't you?" We all are. I hope you got a chance to read this week. We have a Dog Nation Invasion package running that I have another story to contribute to this week on Dog Nation Invasion Baton Rouge for the LSU trip. Boy, there's a lot of you guys planning to go out to Cajun country. Most of you heading to New Orleans, a smaller amount of you heading to Baton Rouge, and getting out there ahead of things, ahead of the game. I'm going to be out there as well. I hope to catch up with you in New Orleans on Thursday. A lot of activities, organized activities by these ticket package people and ticket brokers, bus lines, Dog Days Shuttle, I think it is planning to have 50 party buses heading from the Superdome to Baton Rouge Saturday morning. They have activities planned all day Friday in New Orleans, and that's just one group. So there's a lot of activities out there. We'll have that covered from both ends. I'll be going to New Orleans, and Mike Griffith will be in Baton Rouge. So we'll have this thing bracketed. And of course, BA and Jeff Santel will be out there as well. So let me see your questions. I'll answer them as best as I can. Scott McFadden wants to know what is up with the lack of night games. I thought for sure LSU would have been a night game. Well, that's the TV deal all the way. I think Georgia probably got a little bit of a break in that CBS selected next week's game for what will be a 2:30 local kick. I mean, if you're the visiting team, you generally don't want to play LSU in Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, whatever you want to call it, on a Saturday night. Those Cajuns take their night game serious. As it is, it'll be a difficult endeavor at 2:30 local time. And but I thought Georgia got a break. Of course, they play Vanderbilt at night this Saturday night. I like that. We haven't done it. I mean, I don't like staying up that late, getting there that late. I'm an old guy. I need my sleep, need my beauty rest, as you can tell. I haven't had enough. But yeah, absolutely, TV dictates that. And so you got a 7:39 p.m. kick for on SEC Network this weekend. Let me see if you guys like that. Are a lot of people excited about that 7:30 p.m. start? Are you going to be there for the 7:30 p.m. start? Let me know. You can give me your thumbs up, or you can give me your comments. Bryce Dixon explaining, and Bryce Dixon would know this because he's a great reader and a great Georgia fan. That CBS gets first pick, and that's what's happening with Georgia a lot. They're as long as you're the number 2 team in the country, and Alabama's number 1, they're all the networks are going to be pining for the 2 of you now. In the SEC's agreement with CBS, they have to spread it around, and a certain amount of games have to go to everybody in the league. But Georgia's already been on CBS twice for the South Carolina game and the Tennessee game, and the Florida game's always on CBS. Excuse me, I'm getting a little bit of a cold, I'm afraid. I don't need it right now. I got a lot going on. Georgia's got a lot going on, and we got to stay healthy. I guess I'll touch on for a second here the whole Adam Sasser affair. A sad thing that happened for sure. Love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. But that came to a quick conclusion, certainly from the athletic department standpoint. As I understand it, it's not necessarily closed yet from a equal opportunity office standpoint. UGA has an equal opportunity office on campus, which is there to protect civil rights and civil liberties and things like that. And a complaint was filed by one student and corroborated by at least a couple of other students. But this was a separate action that took place that Adam Sasser was dismissed from the team by the University of Georgia and Coach Scott Strickland. So, excuse me, Julie Clark-Jones is saying he needs to be expelled. No place for that BS at UGA. And I understand that, and I certainly agree with everybody when it comes to, racist intolerance, especially on a state university campus. But there's also constitutional rights that have to be weighed there, free speech and all that kind of stuff. And it's really a difficult place that an incident like this puts a state institution and puts authorities, because you have to obey the law, and then you have your own set of guidelines and codes of conduct, and all of that stuff comes into play. But the fact of the matter is, arguably Georgia's best player on the baseball team, certainly the best hitter, power hitting first baseman, is no longer on the team, and that will be an issue going forward, at least on the field of competitive play, and then certainly in the field of political correctness and certainly racial harmony within the athletic department. I tip my cap to Georgia so far in the way they handled it. I mean, this was an isolated incident for sure that took place, and certainly with regard to an athlete being at the center of the controversy, and Georgia dealt with it fairly quickly, and we'll see what comes of that. So let me see your questions. Actions have consequences, Julie says again. Richard Smith points out that my understanding was he was saying it as a term of endearment. That's where you get into a whole different other discussion. The irony of the whole thing was Adam Sasser was calling for Justin Fields to be put back into the game. But he was just using the wrong language to do that, and was corrected by a lot of people around him, not just the three young ladies who came out publicly about it. Puts me in a difficult position, having to write about it, the AJC, and but that's what we're here for, is to initiate the discussion when there needs to be one, report on things as they happen, and that's what we do. But I'd love to get your questions here. What else would you like to know about? Hello, Ms. Bellamy. So glad to see you here. Hope Davin is doing well. Georgia as a whole is certainly performing well on the NFL level. Hope you guys see we are now running a weekly feature on Tuesday afternoons, Dogs in the NFL, where we update you on everybody who's competing in the NFL. We matriculated at Georgia, and this past week we talked about the running back U being well represented by Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, and Todd Gurley, all of whom went well over 100 yards in total offense this week, and scored a bunch of touchdowns for their teams. The Cleveland Browns, Chubb's Cleveland Browns, the only one not to win out of those, unfortunately. Let's see what other questions we have. Davin is doing great, Bridget said. Is he on the active roster right now? I think I can't remember whether he was or not. I know you'll tell us. Derek Wedlin points out, saying what he said is completely all called for, and it hurts recruitment. Yeah, that's the thing. At the end of the day, that's probably certainly for Kirby and those coaches that are competing in the relentless SEC. That's where they are more than anything else. I mean, my understanding behind the scenes, and this is understandable too, that Scott Strickland and certainly Adam Sasser's parents, let us not forget here that all these people are children of others, and their parents certainly wanted to see their son remain on the team, and take whatever consequence there was, and possibly get some sort of counseling or something as a result of it. Whether that was discussed as an actual option, I don't know. Right now, the University of Georgia is still declining comment, and as far as we know, the investigation is continuing. So, it'll be a little while before we know more about that. But we will continue to cover it for you. Right now, we're just waiting to hear if anything else come down from the ELO, and we're just going to let, Justice do his work until then, and then we'll let you know when there's anything else to report. In the meantime, Kirby Smart says he talked to Justin Fields. Adam Sasser says he talked to Justin Fields. Everybody claims that everybody's okay. And, hopefully by next week, when Georgia's getting ready for LSU, I would say all of this should have been washed down the river and out into the ocean to dissipate into the forever forgotten, hopefully, or it probably won't forever be forgotten, but will be for a good while. Let me get some more comments from you. A lot of you guys on here having lunch with us. We appreciate it. As you know, this is brought to you by Marco's Pizza. I challenge you, as I always do during this hour, call Marcos. The best thing you can possibly do is go to marcos.com and have you a profile set up like I do, and they know what my favorite pizza is, and I can go on there and just in a matter of minutes click send me a pizza, and I'll have one in no time made just the way I like it. And that's one of the best services, I think, of Marco's Pizza. So be sure and patronize them. They certainly do a good job sponsoring us with what is this free content we provide you every day. We have a lot of great relationships like that, and we really appreciate them. J.C. Howell, good question here. Do you think D-Rob will get any wide receiver play? I do think he will this week. Mike Griffith yesterday, I wasn't over there, but Mike talked to Jason Stanley, I believe it was, and he said he absolutely was asked if he thought that D-Rob would have a big game, receiving game at some point. He said absolutely. I think, with Georgia, a lot of it is all these idiosyncrasies that go into playing a wide receiver for the University of Georgia. It takes them some time, and blocking, being physical is a big part of that. I think that reality is and Georgia has a lot of receivers that already know what they're doing. Let's face it. So, and Godwin just now coming back. Tyler Simmons may or may not play this week, but he's coming back from the shoulder. But J.J. Holloman looks to me like he deserves more reps. Riley Ridley doing a great job. Nicole Harbin doing a great job. Tennessee, the first team to contain him since the national championship game. We hadn't heard from Akil Crumpton lately. Just a lot of good receivers for Georgia to choose from. And so, in fact, it could be argued that Georgia has almost too many offensive weapons. That may be part of the problem is you got such a wide net of ball distribution this year. It's not quite as simple as just turning around and giving the ball to Chubb and Michelle and letting that be that. I think Georgia is going to have to throw it. I had a few people on here ask me to comment on the O-line. Devin Campbell was asking about when will the O-line be healthy again, and somebody before that, I apologize, asked about what I thought they were performing. I do not think Georgia's offensive line is performing at a very high level, whether that has to do with Andrew Thomas playing on a gimpy ankle, and certainly Ben Cleveland being out with a broken ankle/leg. I think that's part of it, but I think overall it was not an automatic that a new line was going to play just as well as it did last year with Isaiah Wynn at left tackle and Andrew Thomas at right tackle. Instead, you got Isaiah Wilson at right tackle and Andrew Thomas at left tackle. And you're playing a true freshman in Cade Mays at right guard, and Solomon Kinley is now starting at left guard. Kendall Baker lost that position. Georgia has a lot of great options, but Brahma sacked 3 times in the Tennessee game. That's inexcusable for a number 2 team in the country. You can't have that type of can't have that type of lack of protection from your quarterback. And certainly everybody would like Jake Fromm to be more mobile, but that's not what he's there for. This is a guy who's looking downfield, who's anticipating routes and coverages, and is trying to really, this year especially, is trying to hit the defense with the big bomb, the big gash, the big play. Not necessarily a bomb, but a lot of times it may be a short pass to Nicole Hardman or Riley Ridley or Akil Crumpton that they're trying to turn into a big play, or like could have been the case with DeAndre Swift this week, a nice little screen pass should have gone all the way for a touchdown. So when will they be healthy? Good question. I mean, the general number that you saw issued out there on Ben Cleveland was 4 weeks. And I'm not sure that I buy that 100% now. That's not coming directly from a doctor or Kirby Smart. That's kind of some general speculation. And when you're 6'6", 345 pounds, as is Ben Cleveland, and you have a broken limb, whether it be a fracture or whatever, it wasn't a compound fracture, but significant enough to shut him down immediately. That's been 1, 2, this will be 3 weeks. 4 weeks would be at LSU. 5 weeks would be at Florida. So I would think it's you have a chance to get him back for Florida. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play again this season. Here's what hasn't been discussed, is whether, you just shut him down altogether. I mean, I know Ben has had a redshirt season, but, you could argue for a sixth one if he gets shut down because of that. And then he gets another year of eligibility out of it because the Missouri game is the 4th game of the year. So technically Georgia could still give him a red shirt. I'll have to ask about that probably next week before we get to it. And then, as I said, you got LSU right around the corner. Oh, here's a good one. Gary and Christian Guliano or Gulisano want to know, where has Jamari Sawyer been? Now, this is one of those situations, y'all. I say it all the time. There's not a conspiracy. Georgia coaches don't pick certain players that they want to play, and then other ones, for reasons beyond performance, they don't want to play them, like Nate McBride. The reason Jamari Sawyer's not playing now is because he's not better than the other guys that are playing in front of him, right? Or he's not at this point. Same thing with D-Rob. I mean, Demetrius Robertson would be in there every down if he was Georgia's best receiver and had a complete grasp of the offense. And every week, Demetrius Isom points out that that'll be week 6 for Florida because of the bye. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't take that into account. So certainly Florida would be a possibility for Ben Cleveland. Certainly more realistic, I think, than at LSU. I don't think you bring the guy back, but we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Ben Cleveland is on the travel roster for LSU. That's absolutely right. Let's see what else we got here. Devin Campbell put in field until the O-line is healthy, or bad idea? Well, I don't think you're going to see either one of these guys play exclusively at this point. I think he's made it clear. It's been made clear by previous action that Georgia feels like they got to get Justin Fields on the field every game somehow. I think there's no question when Georgia's quarterbacks are under a lot of pressure, he certainly helps the situation. When the run game is struggling, he certainly helps that situation. As he gets better, he is a better runner. If he can move into a tie with Jake Fromm on recognizing defenses and checking in and out of plays, then I would say, he might be your guy. That's where I say next year may be a little bit more controversy, as it were, as a quarterback competition. But right now, it's just nothing but Georgia trying to do the best they can with the talent they have at the position, which is considerable. I would argue that only Alabama can argue having as good of two quarterbacks, especially now that Clemson has lost one of their two. And hey, that's what it's all about, right there, right? What you saw at Clemson is what you choose to is what you look to avoid if you're the Georgia Bulldogs. And Kirby Smart, James Coley, and Jim Chaney doing the best job they possibly can to manage that situation, make sure that doesn't happen to them. You got to keep both these guys happy, but more than that, you got to keep these guys sharp. And I think they're both playing pretty sharp. I mean, between them, they're about 75% completion percentage and not many interceptions. And Fields gives you a little bit more of a run threat, and Jake Cron gives you a little bit more of a pass threat. And that's not the first time that's happened in college football, and I can certainly understand it. Philip Jordan Wells talking about Fields and Cook/Swift, a deadly combo. There's no question. You think about Georgia. The zone read at the end of the day is the base of every spread RPO package nowadays, and you can certainly see how that's a much better threat with Justin Fields than it is with Jake Fromm. I don't agree with what Mike Roy is saying here. Holyfield is overrated. I don't think so. If anything, I think he might be underrated. Now, Mike Griffith doesn't quite share my estimation of Elijah Holyfield. I mean, I think he might get a crack to play on the next level. He doesn't think he quite has the home run threat, that NFL type coaches, players, running backs do. But I like what I see from Elijah Holyfield, both in speed and burst, certainly in strength and durability. He is all through the roof with that. And listen, that's a big part of playing running back. I agree with Mike that Swift is more dynamic. I don't agree that he necessarily reads the hole better. I think Holyfield spends a little less time reading the hole, but he makes some great jump cuts and adjustments at the line of scrimmage. And, again, they're both very, very good. And, look, we've only seen the tip of the iceberg on James Cook. You're going to continue to see more of him. And hey, Brian Arian, how about him this past week, y'all? Brian Arian was fantastic. Kirby actually said he wished he could have played him a little bit more there on that fourth quarter drive, let him finish it, because he was the one that got the big important yards to continue what ended up being the game-defining drive against Tennessee this past week. And one last point, I'll get to your question here. We're going to have to wrap it up with you. We're within my 5-minute window. Get my warning here. I think at the end of the day, I went back. I've watched this Georgia-Tennessee game 3 times. I'm not sure Tennessee might be a little bit better than we're all giving them credit for. I'm still blown away that Georgia was a 31.5-point favorite, or whatever that line ended up, over 30 points on game day. That's still amazing to me. And when I look back at this game, certainly Georgia struggled, but I think a lot of that had to do with Tennessee. I thought they were for the most part pretty well coached, very physical, and did some good things. Now we're still in the first half of the season, so we're still trying to figure out what's what and who's who. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Tennessee takes some folks down going forward. And I said the same thing after Missouri, and I say the same thing about Tennessee right now. Kentucky doesn't have a free ride into that second place spot, and of course, Georgia's still got to get by them as well. So anyway, once again, I want to point out Marco's Pizza. Y'all please try them if you hadn't done it. Go to marcos.com, set you up a profile, order you a pizza that you love, and right now you can get 2 fresh-made dough original sauce recipes pizzas for $6.99. Those are medium size, and you can get 2 toppings on them, and they're terrific. They're good, and they arrive piping hot, and it's making me hungry right now, so I'm going to order one as soon as we get off of here. But I'm going to have to wrap up. Philip Jordan Wells has agreed with me. Thank you, Chip. I've been saying that on Facebook all week. So we'll see. The season, we're only at the halfway point. We think we know what we think Georgia is, and we're still trying to figure that out. Everybody, I do think they're better than LSU. I think they'll take care of business against LSU. I think this time they might cover that line. It's 26, based on what I've seen from Georgia. It appears that Georgia's going to get over 30 points every week, no matter what. So I see it. David Van Vleck saying, "I bet nobody will be complaining if we beat LSU 38-12," and that is certainly the case. Anthony, the perfect gentleman, Sumbry, believes that Georgia will blitz much more against Vanderbilt. So thanks a lot, y'all, for hanging out with me. Thanks for tolerating the sound issues. That continues to be kind of a little bit of a problem, but as long as you can hear me, that's good. And we'll continue to work that on our end. Please go on Dog Nation now and read the stories. Click on the stories we have there. There's some terrific ones. Mike Griffith, Justin Tell, Brandon Adams always put some great stuff up there, and I throw some drivel up there from time to time. So go on there and let us know you're reading our stuff. Go in the forum, talk about it. Get the Dog Nation app, and be sure and get your tickets and travel arrangements for Baton Rouge, because there's going to be a ton of Bulldogs there next week. But Vanderbilt's up next. Georgia basketball tomorrow night with Stegmania. Try to get over there and show Tom Crean and Joni Crenshaw your support. And again, thanks to Marcos Pizza, and thanks as always for hanging out with me in this forum. I will see you at the same time next week. Later, y'all.